Welcome in, everybody. If you can believe it, it's the final week of the college football regular season, which means it's rivalry week. We are counting down to the Iron Bowl at Jordan-Hare Stadium this year. Saturday, it's going to be a 2:30 kickoff between 8th-ranked Alabama and Auburn. Looking forward to the game as always. Cole Cubelic, Simone, Eli joining you to break down everything the Tide and Tigers and also talk about Thanksgiving. Let's go head to head. Well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. You know, it's that time of year when the weather starts to get a little cold. You're looking forward to Thanksgiving. It's hard to not already look forward to Christmas. Cole, it's rivalry week, Iron Bowl week. You have to admit, this is just a great time of year.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. And the only bad part about it is what you sort of led off with, that it's the last week of the regular season. We all need a little bit of a break. We're all excited that rivalry week is here, but we also don't want this to be over. So it's kind of a little bit of a conflict in emotions, but enjoy it while we've got it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
You're absolutely right. It's like we're counting down to college football every single year. It's a long spring and then summer and then it's here and then you blink and it's over. Yep. It's kind of like raising kids. Like you turn around and they're grown and we turn around and the season is winding down. Before we talk the game, we got to talk about Thanksgiving. Personally, ham turkey is such a controversial topic. For me, it's a no-brainer and it's ham. Like I don't even like turkey. You eat turkey?
I do eat turkey for Thanksgiving, yes. And I didn't even know this was really a debate. I know some people add the ham on, and some people have sort of decided to go that direction here recently. I don't know if this is a new age thing or not.
No, this is not a recent development. This is like a very controversial topic and has been for a long time.
Okay, well, McElroy told me on our morning show earlier this week that he has his family has shifted more towards the ham.
Okay.
Everybody else said that it can be an add-on, but you can't just not have turkey. So I think there are other debates there, like strawberry pretzel salad. Should it be allowed? Is it a dessert or a side? Sweet potato casserole. Is it a dessert or a side? Which essentially it's a dessert, but I'm going to treat it as a side. That's fine. I don't care. And then, you get the whole stuffing dressing and,
True.
My dad's family grew up in Pittsburgh. He grew up in Pittsburgh. So it has been stuffing my entire life.
Yep.
His parents would actually pull the stuffing out of the bird at Thanksgiving. So that's what it was. And I don't mind dressing. It's fine. It's great. I would prefer stuffing, but just there's not a lot of people who actually make stuffing anymore. So they're both fantastic.
But here's the deal. I thought stuffing and dressing up until literally this week, I thought it was interchangeable. And I thought that it was just a Yankee versus Southern thing because I grew up in Ohio. I always said stuffing, came down here and it was a dressing thing. And then I come to find out that it actually has something to do with it being in the turkey or with the turkey. I had no idea that I thought it was just a matter of where you grew up and what you said.
Yeah, I'm going to pretend like being in is not a big deal. I guess there are health hazards, whatnot. That's fine. I don't care. I'll risk that. I'll risk that. And I think I would need to correct you. It's dressing. So
dressing,
not dressing, not dressing.
Well,
correct.
Okay. So what is so dressing is just like if you throw it in a pan and it's
the same thing. I've just been down here longer than you.
Dressing. So dressing is in a pan on its own.
Yeah, it's a little more runny, and so I'm not as big of a fan. But it's like I said, it's still fine. It's fine. I'll have it. I'll have lots of it. Actually, I won't this year because I'll be working. But normally, I would have a lot.
All right. So dressing, stuffing, sweet potato casserole. I like mac and cheese, but more than that, I like mashed potatoes. That's like my go-to.
Mashed potatoes are fantastic. I feel
like the
mac
casserole.
Mac and cheese is a little bit too year-round. I just feel like you can. And now you get these people that try to fancy it up. When I was in Columbia, South Carolina last weekend, my cousin, all my family lives there now, most. Okay. And my cousin's like, "Oh, we're having Friendsgiving, come over." And she does this she had people prepare this white cheddar mac and cheese with these giant shells. I'm like, this is too much. Just give me Kraft out of the box and I'm good.
Spoken like a true dad to 3 toddlers who are all eating Kraft mac and cheese. I love that. All right, guys, regardless of what you enjoy, first of all, add us on Twitter and let us know if you are a turkey or a ham person, because that's not a new development, by the way, but we want to know for sure. Guys, let's talk about the Iron Bowl. 8th-ranked Alabama at Auburn. Cole, before we really talk about the Iron Bowl, let's talk about last week, because your prediction in the score did not match what you said the entire time on head-to-head, because all you did was talk about how good of a team Mexico State was, how much of a game this and challenge this could be for Auburn. And boy, that's exactly how it played out.
And still, even though I knew it was going to be problematic, I don't think I expected it to be that problematic, Simone. That was there was a lot of effort that was questionable, a lot of execution questionable. Very few guys looked really interested. Honestly, I didn't like the plan, especially on offense. It was weird watching the game. I was watching New Mexico State operate on offense, and I was thinking to myself, this is what Auburn should be running. Like the same kind of stuff that they were running, the half quarterback rolls, the quick outlet throws, then some of the misdirection later. Like that's the plan that I thought Auburn would kind of take, and they have taken it in previous games this year. So I get frustrated with the people who say, oh, this is on the coaching staff or this is on the players. It's collective. It's everybody. I mean, you can point to some of the athletic trainers. You can point to the strength staff. That one was on everybody. There's not one player that didn't play well or that didn't show up. There's not one position group. There's not one coach. I've had people say, Hugh Freeze was out recruiting last week, so he wasn't focused. Stop. Okay. Stop with that. Stop with the guys were looking at each other in the locker room saying, we don't have to play hard this week. That's not a real thing, people. That doesn't happen. Nobody says, hey, guys, let's go out there and give 50% because it's New Mexico State. What happens is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, you don't put in the proper effort and you don't mentally get prepared. So you begin to think about things and you begin to second guess what you feel like is going to happen, what your calls are, what they're running, what you're supposed to run. And maybe you didn't spend as much time in film as you needed to or in practice that you needed to, and it shows up. And that's what happened. They came in flat. They mentally weren't prepared. They didn't play aggressive enough. The execution was poor. You had drops. You had offensive linemen tiptoeing off the ball. Pad level was too high. Defenders missed tackles. It was just a lot. A lot of things went wrong. And now you're going to have to live with one of the most embarrassing losses in school history. That's just that's what it is. Yeah,
spoken like a true former college athlete. Folks who have played the game or any game really at the highest level, collegiate level, know that lack of execution is a big deal, but lack of preparation is way bigger. If you're not preparing throughout the week, going into the game is definitely going to be concerning. If your mind isn't right and if your body isn't right, if you haven't prepared properly. Like you said, embarrassing game. I think that Hugh Freeze called it sickening, which I thought was pretty strong words. He said that on Monday. The question is now, can Auburn use this as a motivating factor going into the biggest game of the year for this team every single year? Hugh Freeze said, I don't know. I hope so. I hope that they can. I hope, I got to meet with the guys again. This was on Monday's press conference. I'm sure he has a more clear answer now as we're going just a couple days away from the game. As a former player, what was maybe the biggest loss? And if you can't think of the biggest loss, but do you think that there is a motivating factor in which, okay, we need to turn this around. We need to end the regular season on a high note with 7 wins?
The motivating factor should be that you now realize you have an inner realization that you can be embarrassed.
Yeah.
And they should all be embarrassed, honestly. And it's not just that it's New Mexico State, because like you pointed out, it's a good football. They've won 9 games. It's a good team. Yeah. But people are going to still see the logo and know the histories and say that should never happen. And I mean, Auburn has a more talented roster. It shouldn't happen. But with the way New Mexico State played, they deserve all the credit, and Jerry Kill deserves all the credit. So you should have a little bit of an awakening now that says we can have our ass handed to us. I don't know another way to say that. And by the way, you're going to play a team this week that's 20 times more talented, that is playing actually better football than they are right now, that could make it look even a lot worse, and that's going to mean a lot more to a lot of people, and you're going to have to hear about it a lot more. So that's the only thing I think you can really take away from it, because there are certain games that you look back to and say, burn the film or burn the tape, whatever that is. I don't know if there's a lot of teaching moments from that tape from what I saw, and I've watched it a couple of times. But I do think that you can look at it and say, if you're not careful, this can happen again, and it can be a lot worse for you. I didn't suffer a loss like this. Now, listen, I was on a team that went 3-8.
Yeah.
But I would say some of our close calls were probably more wake-up calls than this. The opener against App State, when Ben Leard had to come in and he threw a touchdown pass late to Ronnie Daniels, and we found a way to win. And that was not the App State over Michigan yet. That wasn't there. That had not happened. So that was a different App State. We had a close call against Central Florida. Granted, they had Dante Culpepper, but that was sort of all right, we need to get our head out of our rear ends and figure out how to make things right. So We didn't lose a game like New Mexico State, but we had some bad losses to some conference opponents.
Yeah,
it's going to happen from time to time. But I think we had a couple of close wins that were maybe bigger wake up calls than some of our losses were.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. And had Auburn won last week's game, the embarrassment wouldn't be there so much, but the wake up call certainly would. So we'll see if the Tigers can take this as a motivating factor, as a wake-up call. Right now, Alabama is more than a 2-touchdown favorite on the road into this game. The Aggies put up more than 400 total yards, and ball control, really the name of this game, almost 39 minutes as opposed to Auburn's 21. And when you think about this Alabama team and Jalen Milroe and how it's really come alive, I mean, people were calling for Tommy Rees's head early in the year. Yeah. Now he's up for the Broyles Award. I mean, they're averaging nearly 50 points a game in the last 4 games. Cole, this offense has just come alive. When you think about a New Mexico State team that did what they did last week, the concern is certainly there for Tiger fans and for this program when you look at what Alabama's been able to do lately.
Well, especially when you look at the fact that they did it really not just but 2 mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And that mobility led to a lot of success on offense. And it wasn't just quarterback run. So it's not quarterback power, quarterback counter, a draw play here and there in which they found success. It was that pocket movement that found the option to either run or deliver a pass to an open receiver. That's what concerns me more than anything else. And I do think that there are parts of the Auburn defense that match up fairly well. Alabama is not near as elite at wide receiver as they have been. Auburn is great in the secondary. That could allow for Ron Roberts to add more defenders to the box, either to play the run or design different pressure packages. And if you want to play differently in coverage on the back end because you have that ability, you're able to bring some of that. So I think the one thing that you do is go back to the teams that did give them problems. Now, it was earlier in the year. You watch what Middle Tennessee State did. You watch what South Florida did. A lot of movement, a lot of run through, utilizing athleticism and quickness. That's what I would anticipate Auburn trying to do up front. If they try to sit and play this straight up, this Alabama offensive line has found that physicality that I thought they were going to have all year. It wasn't there earlier on. You had a freshman left tackle. You're moving guys around. Well, they've come into their own a little bit now, and their running backs are excellent getting downhill. So you will probably need an extra body or two in the box to slow the run game down. And it's letting Jalen Milroe play his game, which becomes the problem. If you force him to play your game, whatever you want that to be, if you want him to stay in the pocket, if you want to beat him with his arm, or when he does run, force him to make a decision quickly, that's how you find any success. But if you let him play his game and be decisive when he wants to, you're going to have a hard time slowing that down.
There's a couple storylines in this game that I think are interesting, Cole, and one of them is that Alabama is looking to win their 4th straight against Auburn for the first time since the early 80s. Auburn did it not too long ago, but Alabama hasn't done it in a hot second, and players didn't shy away from saying that, it's in the back of their minds. I mean, Roydell Williams, he's a Hueytown graduate. He's an Alabama guy. He knows how much this rivalry means. He said, this is certainly something that we want to continue. We want to continue the streak, of course. How much of maybe like a shot to the system a little bit would this be for maybe the Auburn senior class, when you think about getting swept by your biggest rival? And is that a motivating factor, of course, in the back of your mind going into this game?
It is, but I wonder where a lot of that is when you talk about contributors and you think about Dylan Wade and Peyton Thorne and Rivaldo Fairweather and guys like that who, 1, haven't been in this program very long, 2, are not in-state guys or not guys that have been around the rivalry for a long period of time. Now, I'm not saying that they're not going to try or they're not going to give good effort, but just I've always said that one thing that makes this game so special, and one of the reasons that I don't think it's ever an ugly game, is because it forces you to be focused. Yes, there are distractions. People ask for tickets. You have more interview requests. But for me, and I know for the majority of my teammates, when we got to this week, we wanted to be in the facility more. We wanted to watch more film. We wanted more reps in practice because I think it's more important to not be the guy that people remember for the wrong reasons than it is to be the guy remembered for the right reasons in games like this. So you want to CYA more than ever before and make sure you know every coverage, every stunt, every blitz. If you're on defense, every formation, every personnel grouping, because the last thing you want is to be the guy who made that big mistake, because that's what people are going to talk about forever. So it forced me to be more focused, and I think it does for a lot of people. But if you don't have that internal drive and you didn't hear about it when you were 10 years old or 8 years old, or your parents weren't taking you to those games when you were 13 or 14 years old, it might not be the same.
Yeah, you don't want to end up on a Daniel Moore painting for the wrong reasons, that's for sure. That doesn't go away anytime soon or ever. I want to quickly thank our sponsor, the Alabama Cattlemen's Association. Cole, of course, ESPN SEC Network is one of the many jobs that you do. You will be at the Egg Bowl on Friday. And one of the interesting things I think about just you being at this game and your perspective and just knowing as much as you know about the SEC is that Hugh Freeze talked to Gus Malzahn this week about the Iron Bowl. Hugh Freeze knows a lot about the Egg Bowl. And Coach Malzahn told him, hey, this is like a different level of rivalry. Having played in one and having covered the other very closely, what is your take in regards to maybe the comparison part of that and just in terms of the significance? I shouldn't say anyone loves one team more than the other, but I just know about the Iron Bowl. I don't really know much about the Egg Bowl and the seriousness of that.
It's weird because I think most people would probably say the Iron Bowl brings out more hate than any other rivalry in college football. I would put the Egg Bowl ahead of it.
Really?
There have been a couple of games recently that have been flat out dirty. I don't know another way to describe them. Now, it's been cleaned up the last 2-3 years. It's not as bad as it was maybe, 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But there were some games that, honestly, there were times, Simone, I couldn't believe what I was watching on television. And
really?
It's I think there is a larger portion of people who care more about the Iron Bowl, but that smaller portion of people care just as much or more about the Egg Bowl. And keep in mind, too, this is Alabama's played for won multiple national championships.
Yeah.
Auburn has won a national championship, been in a national championship game, been in other SEC championship games. These two teams haven't had the similar success, so it's going to mean more. Inherently, it's going to be a more important game. There are a lot of Alabama fans that will try to tell you that Tennessee's their biggest rival. Like, a lot of them have just blown past this game, worried about the SEC championship game or the college football playoff or a national title, whatever that is. I don't think as many Auburn fans have had that mentally, but I think a lot of Ole Miss and Mississippi State fans, they haven't had that chance emotionally to move on to that. So this is the game. This is still the one that counts really more than anything else. So I'm excited to be on it. I've wanted to call this game for a long time. We did it during COVID. I don't really think it counted. It just, there was like
really
9,000. Yeah, there was like 9,000 people there, and it wasn't the last game of the year, so it was just weird.
Yeah.
But this is going to be the real thing, and I'm pumped to be on the call for it. And it is a nasty. I saw Shanti Seastrong said yesterday, he's like, this is like war. I mean, that's the way we view it. That's the way it is. So. Yeah. It's going to be fun. It's going to be cool. And I put it up there. Army Navy will always be one for me. Always. It will never be topped. I would put Alabama and Auburn next. And then I would have a real debate between Ohio State, Michigan, and the Egg Bowl, just because I think similar things with Ohio State and Michigan fans, they've had all that other stuff to get excited about. And once again, Ole Miss and State fans have not. So I think it has kept the level of this game even more important. I mean, we've seen Alabama lose this game and go to the playoff.
Sure.
So that's just kind of where I think the Egg Bowl is. I think it's one of the greatest rivalries in college football.
Yeah. Well, all really, really good points. And I do think that there's a level of, maybe I shouldn't say this on this show, but I feel like there's a level of respect in the state. I mean, like between Alabama and Auburn, like maybe more so than there is in the Egg Bowl. Like, I'm not saying there isn't complete hate. I'm not saying people don't talk trash for 364 because they do, but there is like a level of respect between fan bases that I have observed covering the game for the last decade.
I think there are some, not all, some Auburn and Alabama fans that do want to see the other team do well when they're not playing.
I feel that.
I don't think that includes want them to go to the SEC championship game or win the West or win the national championship. But when they're playing LSU or they're playing Mississippi State, they want them to win that game.
Yeah.
I don't think you can find a whole lot of Ole Miss fans that want to see State win other games and vice versa. I just don't. I don't think many Mississippi State fans are out there saying when Ole Miss plays Arkansas, like, man, I hope the Rebs get this one. I don't think that's real. And
I feel that.
It's an awesome game. It's an awesome rivalry, and I really do think that because of not having the same extended success that Ohio State, Michigan, that Auburn, Alabama have had, maybe even Florida State. That's why that thing ramps up. And that respect thing goes back to the focus thing for me. Like, I didn't have – we talked almost no trash in the Iron Bowl. None.
Really?
You get into a different headspace.
Yeah. At
least for me. And I don't know where everybody else was, but I got into a different headspace where no matter what anybody said to me, I was worried about the next play. And I was worried about what the defense was. And was I making the right call? And did we need to get to a different protection? I didn't care what Cornelius Griffin was saying or what Dwayne Rudd was saying. Like, okay, cool. Like, let's go get yards on this play. Let's go score a touchdown. Like, that's why it was so important.
Yeah, well, Auburn will certainly need to have that same mentality going into Saturday's game. Alabama, the heavy favorite. Want to talk about our predictions and then let y'all go. I personally have 28-14 in this. I think Alabama will get the win by a couple of touchdowns. But I think this is a rivalry game, and it's one of the things where every year you go into this game and what's happened in the first 12 weeks doesn't matter. And that doesn't matter to the fans, doesn't matter to what the scoreboard, it doesn't matter to the players coming into the game. It's like a clean slate, and anything can happen. Certainly we know that in this game, especially when it's played at Jordan-Hare Stadium. And so I have 28-14. I do think Alabama will get the win. They're just playing such good football right now, but I don't think that Auburn's just going to show up and lie down.
They're not going to lay over. No, I don't think they'll sleepwalk through this one. I struggle to find ways that Auburn moves the football consistently, honestly. Simone, I don't know what that's going to look like, how that's going to be. I could see a special team score. I could maybe even see a defensive score. Alabama's given up a lot of sacks this year. Yep. Could you get a strip sack, or could you get a hit on Milroe? Ball pops up, you take it back. I'm going to go 31-17. I think Alabama gets the win. I do think Auburn gets a non-offensive touchdown in the game, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of offensive yardage. They need to slow the game down, but as we've heard Coach Freeze the last few weeks, that tempo is what's been helping them out. Sure. So maybe tempo to the ball and then wait. I'm anxious to see what the plan is, because the plan is going to have to be really good for Auburn to consistently move the football.
Well, we're looking forward to it. It's the SEC on CBS Game of the Week, a 2:30 kickoff at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Alabama and Auburn going head-to-head in the Iron Bowl to wrap up the college football regular season. Cole, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy your turkey, enjoy your ham, whatever it is that you choose. We are not going to we're not going to shy away from any food. But listen, the plate's going to be loaded, that's for sure. We're looking forward to seeing you cover the Egg Bowl on Friday, and then you're going to go enjoy the Auburn game for the first time with your kids, right?
It's wild. I have never attended an Auburn game with my family. Now, they were at the Texas A&M game last year because I was working that game. So we were all together before the game on the field, but then they went and did their thing and I had to work. We've never been to an Auburn game together. My wife and I've only been to a handful together. So it's going to be cool to take the kids and like have them go experience everything and be around Auburn. I'm excited about that. And, 3-year-old, how long is he going to make it? I don't know. 6-year-old staying. I already told my wife, like, if my daughter wants to leave, the 8-year-old daughter, she can go. I get it. Like, if the 3-year-old falls asleep, that's fine. The 6-year-old staying. Like, he's going to learn a lesson Saturday. We don't leave the games. Yes. Yep. I'm going to make him stay for the entire time. And the other part is, Simone, my producer, John Saber on Jocks, asked me this morning, we were talking about this. He said, when was the last Iron Bowl you went to? And it really caught me off guard for a minute. And the last Iron Bowl I attended was 2010.
No way.
I haven't been to an Iron Bowl in 13 years. It's crazy to think. Wow. I mean, I've been working. So I didn't even think about that it's been that long since I've actually been to an Auburn, Alabama game.
Cool. Well, you deserve it, and I'm happy for you. Looking forward to the pictures of seeing y'all there at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the final regular season edition of Head to Head. We look forward to seeing you at whatever Auburn Bowl game that they will be at here in a couple of weeks as we enter the month of December. For Cole Cubelic, I'm Simone Eli. I want to thank our sponsor, the Alabama Cattlemen's Association, and we will see you in a few weeks.
Brought to you by Alabama Beef Farmers and Ranchers.